They call New York the city that never sleeps. Maybe that's true. Maybe it isn't true. But I know for a fact that it's true with Blackwood. I'd say that traffic was a motherfucker getting across the city, but I know how to drive well and where all the shortcuts are, so I made good time. Had to stop in a few places, do some things that needed doing. I made it there about 5:50 in the well-cared-for, but not particularly expensive SUV. Most people seem to think I'd spring for old-school American muscle, but those people must not realize I'm nearly 7 feet tall, and I don't fit so well in most smaller vehicles. Besides, I had equipment to carry, ammunition on stock, and a last resort or two hidden beneath the rear seats. Not that I thought I was going to need a tow missile launcher or anything, but I like to be ready. Every minute that passed was another minute that girl might be dead, yeah. But, based on all the shit I'd read in those files and the stuff the mercs told me, they wouldn't be running their stupid little ritual until midnight. It had to be midnight, when one day crossed over into another. It was something about midnight, according to the mercs, that facilitated the travel between one plane and the next, lubricated the magical whatevers, I don't know. Midnight was a direct symbolic mark of change. Change, power transfer, you see how that lines up. 5:50 in the afternoon. I was at the restaurant that he took Melissa to several times. It was called simply Vale. Vale was a massive building. Huge, high-class, gorgeous, etc., etc., etc. Not really my place. The outside was made to look like something out of ancient Greece. The inside was made to look like something out of an extremely rich, very, very fond of gold ancient Greece. Up to and including all kinds of fucking, silk drapes and thin, fucking veils. Jesus, the restaurant's named for him. I'm a big guy. We've established that. I mean, uncomfortably big. When I said 6 foot whatever before, that was lowballing. Honestly, if I were to say 6'11.5", that's lowballing. It's closer to 7'1" or 2", depending on what I'm wearing on my feet. Yeah, I'm also not particularly high class looking. Too many hits to the face, got scorched a few times, wasn't exactly a model to begin with. At least that's my opinion of myself. Others vehemently disagree. I had the big, lantern jaw, the crooked nose. I thought it was a little too big. Some scarring down the right side of my face, watery blue eyes, part of a beard growing in that I hadn't had time to shave. Hadn't eaten enough, and I was running on painkillers and stimulants that were going to start fucking with my head if I took too many of them for too long. There might have been some speed in there. I don't know. There was no way I could pass my muscular buttocks off as a fancy patron. I was, however, not above pretending to be a police officer to save a teenage girl and some street kids. Probably dead street kids. No one looked twice at me as I got out of the car 2 blocks away and started walking. My tie was done up nicely. My long coat was immaculate. My shoulder rig was excellently arranged. I looked every bit a Blackwood detective of the less than private kind. See now, people did look twice when a giant in a really effective costume walked clean up to the restaurant and ignored the long, long line leading towards the entrance. That's one of the perks about being a fake cop. You can totally walk past lines. A few people, looking awful plain clothes, wandered out of the entrance of the building. When I say they looked awful plain clothes, I mean they were clearly security dressed in plain clothes. Fancy plain clothes, but plain clothes. "Excuse me, sir, there's a line," the woman at the podium said. I don't do lady voices so good. She looked like she was at most 20, and she was definitely in her prime. Woman like that I wouldn't even want to flirt with because, frankly, a dirty look might break her. Slender in an elegant and purposeful way, that sort of thing. Most people can't pull off that kind of look without looking, emaciated. You know, sick. She was radiant. I'd say that angels don't lie with demons, and thus she wasn't my type, but I've seen that happen, so I'll just say that champion show dogs don't fuck mutt mongrels off the street, and thus she was not my type. I am a delightful angel. As a joke, say it's a reversal. She's actually the angel. I'm the it's dead. Don't worry about it. Sorry, Miss Blackwood PD. I need to ask you some questions. Well, actually, your security staff. I replied, pulling out my badge. Not only was the badge a good fake, it was the best fake money can't buy. I made it myself. The badge number would even call back to my detective friend Tom if anybody went looking. Isn't that fancy? It even led to a real detective. Sorta. She blinked, staring at the badge. I had a feeling the woman had seen a badge before based on the way she scrutinized it, or maybe she just liked shiny things. No way to know for sure. I see, of course. Okay. She trod off, glancing behind her shoulder. One of the overtly casual plainclothes security people gave her a nod. Okay, sir. Please follow him. He'll take you around back through the rear entrance. We don't need our patrons knowing about any kind of police investigation if there's no charges. I nodded calmly and gestured to the guy. He walked, I followed. We made it around back of the building, good and easy, heading through a door next to some artful concrete planters standing really, really tall. I mean, so tall they just damn well hit those pesky dumpsters. And also quite a bit taller than that, in fact. We moved through the kitchen and into a back hall with a break room and office I assume belonged to an owner who was too busy fucking women who I'd go bankrupt just saying the name of to actually be in the restaurant. And then a security room. You never been to a restaurant with a security room? Rich people like to feel secure. They'll pay a lot of money to feel secure. On top of that, restaurants deal with a lot of cash on hand, you know? Especially rich people restaurants. It's a double reason to have a security room. This cult leader had been taking Melissa to a place for people with money. He must have been loaded, or at least, secure financially, which, I mean, good for her that she was going for a guy that had good future options, but still. I had to hope somebody had seen him. The alternatives to somebody seeing him were not great. The man showed me into the security room, shut the door behind him, and stood by it. Threateningly. The room was exactly what I expected. Boring. Gray walls, gray carpet, dim, and many monitors showing the feeds from many cameras. And there was a bored-looking, middle-aged man who looked like he used to be career military with a cup of coffee in one hand and a cigarette in the other. You do a shit job of pretending to be a police officer, Silver, he said quietly. I got the bored part wrong. He wasn't bored. He was pensive, as in pensively considering how to shoot me in the face. Well, you work fast, Mr. Ahadi, Mr. Silver. Oh, Iranian? I asked. A few generations back, maybe, but I'm U.S., homegrown. What's a private detective posing as a police officer doing at this establishment, Mr. Silver? And why am I not shooting you and then calling the police and letting them sort out your corpse? I frowned. I hadn't been expecting that. I didn't think it was going to give me a chance to explain myself. So what? Facial recognition? Is that how you did it? You have, facial recognition and, what? I asked. He smiled patiently. Obviously, he was waiting for an answer to his previous questions. I'd stumbled into some shit I really did not want to stumble into, apparently, which was not going to bode well for me. Okay, something else is going on here than just a restaurant, Mr. Ahadi. I get that. I'm not interested. I legitimately don't care. I got some missing kids, okay? There's a girl who everyone thinks is dead, and that's all I'm here for. I don't give a 20th of a shit what you do in your own time or what illegal shit's going on here. I'm here to find the girl. He watched me for several moments, and his gaze was wholly unsettling. You're just a man looking for a missing teenager, Mr. Silver, with a fake badge so good that the badge number is actually real. I have doubts, you see. He trailed off, shifting in his office chair and then pinching the bridge of his nose like he had a headache. A moment later or less, he stiffened and tilted his head slightly to one side. I recognized the gesture. Someone was speaking to him via an earbud. He listened, and then answered with, "Ma'am, are you sure?" He's, yes, I think he might be. No, he does. Armed or, okay, armed. Alright. He looked to me then, stood up, and nodded to the man by the door and said, "Take over. I need to escort our guest to see our employer." "Sir, yes, sir." Mr. Ahadi approached me. "Mr. Silver, please come with me. The owner of this establishment has invited you to meet with her in the private area at the back of the dining area." I have many questions, Mr. Ahadi. Many questions." "Yes, I'm not surprised. I'm not taking your firearm or any of the other concealed weaponry you're currently in possession of, Mr. Silver, though I think 6 knives might be overkill. She merely wishes to speak with you. This is not a hostile meeting," he said, looking uncomfortable. "Here's some advice. Don't look in her eyes. Don't lie to her. She will know. Do not touch her unless she touches you first. Do not insult her, and for fuck's sake, do not make a deal with this woman." "She sounds like some kind of demon," I said jokingly. He didn't look at me. Yeah, some kind. So after that cryptic nonsense, I followed him out into the very same hallway and down to the kitchen entrance. We marched out into the dining room, and I felt an itch for a cigarette and a tactical vest and a bunch of Kevlar, maybe some plate armor, a ballistic shield, and some Claymore mines. But hey, who calls me paranoid, everyone? Everyone does. We marched out into the dining room. Like I said, everyone in the room pretended I didn't exist, even with my size. I mean, I was walking behind a security officer, had a face that a scalpel hadn't touched since I was 25, and had some shrapnel pulled out of my cheek. Not plastic surgery. Believe me, there is no amount of sculpting that can fix what's going on with this disaster. It was perfectly obvious that as far as they were concerned, the rich people, I was the help. I made air quotes there, you couldn't see them though, and nothing else. We made our way to the wall at the back of the dining area. The nearer we got to the wall, the richer looking the people seated there got, and they were seated much more sparsely as well, as if money could buy you elbow room. On that wall there was a single arch, with layered silk artfully draped across it, so it was impossible to see anything beyond, other than vague shadows. We walked through the archway, and I tried to ignore all the silk brushing against my manly fucking face, and how nice it felt, and how it made me deeply reconsider my stance on silk sheets and pillowcases. I had a bad experience once. The back area was artfully empty. Take a moment to appreciate that I just said artfully empty. Go ahead and figure that out. Ponder it for a while. There were tables, chairs, silk drapings, dim lightings, tobacco smoke. But there weren't people. I listened close to the sounds of talking and eating and realized there were speakers broadcasting those sounds that were actually integrated into the chairs themselves. That was clever and insanely creepy. I mean, the fucking bizarrest. We passed through the fake dining room and up to a door artfully concealed behind more silk drapes. And that passed through into a short staircase. It switched back once and ended in front of elevator doors. I gotta tell you, the stairwell, was obviously extending from the outer wall of the building, but I realized it was concealed inside of that oversized dumpster area I had mentioned before, so no one would really notice. Except employees. And you work at a place like that, you probably make enough money to not ask questions. He pressed one button, because the only button was down, of course. I mean, like we're going to hell or something, because, I mean, that's my luck. The doors slid open. It was, in fact, an elevator. A very expensive, very nice elevator. A hottie pressed the single button inside, also a down arrow, which was weird. Because, I mean, the elevator would have to come back up eventually, right? But, no, it didn't seem like that was the case. And down we went. The air was well chilled, the floor was lushly carpeted, everything was patently exquisite, and it was large enough that I didn't feel cramped. Which, let me tell you, was just a treat. "Who is this woman exactly?" I asked. "She is my employer," he answered opaquely. I sighed. We reached the bottom too long after entering that elevator. It felt like nearly 15 minutes, and that elevator was moving fast. I mean, like, really fast. I was frankly worried that I had, decompressed my spine or something. I mean, it was going, it was moving. With only one identified exit, I felt like I was walking into a goddamn lobster trap. Easy to get in, hard to get out. We exited the elevator to find, surprise, another short cement hallway and a brand new door. This one was steel, heavily reinforced, and largely uninteresting except for the fact that it had bars across it. I mean, like blast-resistant bars. I figured it added to the mystique of the place. There was a door, with a man standing beside it, like I said, who was really, really frightening looking. Like, equally as frightening looking as I was, except he was black, and his skin was so dark it was actually the color black. I mean, that guy was deep black. On the scale of blackness, he was past Denzel Washington, and all the way beyond Lawrence Fishburne. He also had on sunglasses in a dim hallway. Weirdo. He simply peered at us for a moment. I felt an awkward ache forming just behind and kind of in my eyes, accompanied by a strange sort of pressure squeezing out in my brain meat. I ignored it, because that's the manly thing to do, and also, I mean, what am I going to do? Ask if he has any aspirin or something? I'm not a pussy. The guy nodded to Mr. Ahadi and then gestured to the door, and I heard it unlock, because, that's just fucking, that's special. Ahadi took the lead again, and I followed him through into a huge open space that we could not have possibly descended enough it was so tall, there was no way we had gone down far enough for it to exist. Mr. Ahadi, just a quick question. When we were on the goddamn space shuttle back there, how far did we go beneath the ground? Far enough to reach a place long forgotten. This city was built on silver mines, Mr. Silver. You of all people should know that. The cavern had obviously used to be part of the old silver mines, which was, I mean, obvious. What wasn't obvious was why the huge cavern hadn't been mined out. I mean, between subway tunnels, sewers, and several old top-secret military facilities, one wouldn't think there was enough ground left for caves. But once upon the time, caves were the main draw of Blackwood. And if he wasn't yanking my chain, we had descended far farther than I realized. See, many caves were deep below the surface of Blackwood, I knew that, and many of them had been collapsed or filled in a very long time ago. Cavern was apparently one that hadn't. For whatever reason, that specific cavern and several of the tunnels connected to it had survived. I mean, if you haven't figured out what's going on here yet, boy, you are just in for a surprise. Just a big ass fucking surprise. I'm disappointed in you if you haven't. The walls were raw and exposed stone, bathed in soft light of various colors from sources I couldn't quite identify because the ceiling was too high and they were lost in obscurity. Veins of raw silver snaked across that living stone here and there, shining with a sort of soft, dull glow. The floor, cut and ground flat, was snaked through with more veins of silver here and there. In darkened alcoves, people sat, filling the air with the soft buzz of conversation behind silk drapes and curtains in various shades of gray. More tables filled the space, and, there was like a dance floor. It was clearly an open space where people were supposed to dance. I don't know what you want from me. People sat at the more exposed tables, and all of them were staring in my direction. The faces didn't seem real important at the time. The pressure in my head was growing, eyes aching a little more. Dance floor was near empty. Not a busy time for the place, I figured. We walked past the dance floor. A pool came into view, washed in the soft lights. Water pure and clear, with no scent of chlorine. An actual fucking waterfall came straight from the cave wall and added the sounds of splashing water to the rhythmic throb of tastefully modern music. People were in the pool. All my brain registered was that they were attractive enough that I almost stared. And naked. Stark buck-ass naked. Something made me look away. Not modesty, I promise. The bar was nice. The actual bar of the area. It was set against the far wall of the cavern. More soft light, silver, silk, shades of gray, all that happy horse shit. Man or woman tending the bar, I couldn't tell. Pretty either way, though. We passed the bar and found our way to the largest alcove in the place. The silk drapes were parted. Naked women laid sensually on the leather-covered benches. I ignored them too for one reason and one reason only. Because when the very concept of modern elegance, artistic grace, and disturbing beauty is sitting there waiting for you with a smile on its face, a couple nice pairs of tits and some pretty hips are really not going to make you look away. I can't even explain just what was so entrancing about the woman who captured my gaze. Frank Silver. It is truly a pleasure, she purred. And I don't do her voice justice. I won't even try. Ain't like I got a throat made of silk, sex, and wet dreams anyway.